Alright guys, such coming again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The Alluka drama continues over the last couple of days after winning the Challengers Cup and being the unanimous MVP of the tournament just a couple of days ago. The questions continue on where he might go in the Pro League if offers are to arrive in the very near future. Maybe before Christmas, maybe before the new year, but surely most certainly after Major 1 in January when multiple teams will consider changes. Shotzzy with some remarkable words for this new player on the scene, saying as far as he's concerned, watching the gameplay, he is the next Mercules. Those are high praises for sure, difficult to live up to, absolutely, but which teams could consider this option, or are OpTic playing a game to try and keep their rivals down? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Again, a couple of spots here on Scar that you may or may not have seen. There's yeah, all sorts of stuff that you can do on this map, which is all rather confusing to be honest. The game will continue to be broken, but speaking of the game being broken, Modern Warfare 4, that is next year's game, COD 2026. I don't want to think too much about it, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I just quickly wanted to mention a little bit of drama here. So the Ghost of Hope did this tweet the other day that said, Modern Warfare 4 multiplayer in its current state is a carbon copy of Modern Warfare 2. So, you know, presumably not Modern Warfare 2 with the 2 from 2009, but effectively what we had in the first iteration of the Modern Warfare games, which were not exactly the greatest. I don't think anyone is going to say that they loved MW2 in hindsight, certainly compared to Modern Warfare 3. I think most people would say that MW3 was a better, at least competitive game, more fun to play, better maps, all that good stuff. The Modern Warfare 2 was, yeah, it's cause there's always going to be a bit of nostalgia for these games. It is what it is. But he says it's just the same. Like, basically, Treyarch, all their work is cooked, and we're going back to Modern Warfare 2 that Infinity Ward cooked up a couple of years ago. But he says there's no perk charging system, there's less ADS or slide penalties, but it's pretty much the same game. Now, Infinity Ward come out with a statement the day after that says this: Happy holidays, everyone. Wishing our community an awesome holiday season. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. See you in 2026. So, you know, and as Charlie Intel says, it's quite clearly a shot at this Ghost of Hope revelation, right? That basically says it's the same game as a couple of years back. They've not done anything implying that it's not going to be all that great. Now, it's very rare that you see a studio responds to rumors in this way, right? Like, it's incredibly rarely done. Ghost of Hope has done so many leaks over the last few years, and they've never said anything about it, which is, I think, pretty interesting. And actually, he does address this precise point, because he says, I've been leaking COD for years. Anyone who watched me, follows me, knows that. I've leaked a ton of things about Vanguard, Modern Warfare 2, 3, Black Ops 6, Black Ops 7 before anyone else. Have I gotten some things wrong? Sure, no doubt about it, I'll own that. But the idea that I make stuff up or do this with hate in my heart, like some people in the replies like to imply, is not true at all. The fact that $1 billion studio has gone out of its way to generically deny 2 of my most recent leaks when they've never done it before, nor towards others, is very strange and should raise some red flags about why that they would do such a thing that they've never done before. I have largely kept the same sources for years, and my Modern Warfare 4 leak is no different to that. I'd be sinking my reputation with COD leaking that I've built over years on faulty, unverified info. So he says, look, I'm standing on business, and, you know, we'll see if they change the game, and obviously it's a year out from the game roughly, so it's possible they could go a different route, but I thought that was an interesting little bit of drama to start off the video. But Shotzzy turned the stream on, and wow, Shotzzy says a lot, doesn't he, on stream over the last few days, especially on this Alluka topic we're going to get into. This was pretty funny though. They were watching the Huntsman boys play, of course, Kips, Raspy, Renegade, and Neum. They've been making some good strides, I think, lately. Not the best result in the Challengers Cup, I think it was top 6 in the end, but I think making some improvements. Neum's definitely turning some heads as well. People are looking at him as a good option for the CDL this year, which I can understand as well. I think all of these Huntsman guys could get opportunities at some point, but they were scrimming against the Falcons black team, and as Shotzzy, well, Shotzzy was talking about, damn, we're faded, right? Why are we not blocking spawns? And it turns out in Zoomer fashion, as Zoomer's done this a few times now, he wasn't muted, the guys could hear him, and probably losing a little bit of full as a result. So very entertaining. Shotzzy also was talking about Kenny getting scapegoated. So this is when the conversation turns to Alluka and what is next for the teams in the league, whether some teams are going to make changes very shortly, and also what that means for Los Angeles Thieves, because Kenny, yeah, he's been getting slammed so far in this game. To be fair, not every series has been terrible. He had that one really bad series. It's just, the thing is for Kenny, his actual overall stats are okay. They're like near enough a 0.9, which is pretty much what, I think Drazah's numbers are worse than Kenny's. I think Kenny has a 0.88 and Drazah has a 0.86, something like that. And yeah, people are talking about Drazah as well. But Kenny's overall numbers, it's not like he's bottom 4. The bottom 4 are Lqgend, who's now gone, Slasher, Skies, Lunarz, and, you know, names, basically those are the bottom 4 players in the league in terms of KD right now. So it's a bit of a surprise maybe to see Skies down there, but, you know, whatever you want to say on that. The point is that Kenny's not rock bottom, but it's just he has these individual stinker maps, right? Like, that's what people really look at. It's like his overall series have been not horrific compared to the rest of his team at all, but he just has those, like, that overload on the den with a 13 in 31 that just brings everything down and looks terrible, right? So he just needs to avoid the absolute stinker maps, I think, really. Shotzzy says that, look at the roster. Of course Ken is going to be the one to get scapegoated. It's very clear. I mean, it was clear before the season started that Thieves would need some time to adapt. We certainly talked about it, right? If you're going to drop Envoy for aBeZy, you're going to lose what Envoy brings to the team. You're going to gain what aBeZy brings to the team, which could potentially be quite a lot if aBeZy and HyDra can work well as a sub-duo, which of course is another question that will take some adaptation. But if you're going to do that, you really need someone who's going to stay in the hill, right? Because HyDra, he has set records for not getting in the hill, right? That's his play style. Last year, there's a reason why Ghosty and Envoy were the number 1 and number 2 objective players in the entire league. They were number 1 and number 2 objective. Scrap and HyDra were basically number 1 and number 2 slang. That was their team approach. So this year, you're bringing in aBeZy. You know, you might argue if you're going to bring aBeZy in for Envoy, you absolutely need to make sure you're keeping in Ghosty, because then you've got someone to pick up the hill time. And Kenny can do that, sure, but it's not really his natural style, and I don't think it's how he'd prefer to play the game. I think he'd prefer the SMGs to do a bit more of that work as well and to share the load somewhat. But, you know, are they going to listen to Kenny if he keeps dropping 13 and 31 stinkers? This is the question. So Shotzzy says, look, Ken's going to get scapegoated. Even if he drops insane numbers, he'd still be the one, which is probably still true, right? I mean, even if Kenny was actually frying, I mean, if they were to be forced to make a change, they'd probably still get rid of him first anyway, you would think. It's not going to be Scrap or HyDra. You can't imagine it would be aBeZy. So that's where the challenge arrives, and that's where the questions start to come as to, okay, is it time that Thieves do something? And look, they'll probably leave it, right? I'd be surprised if any of these teams are making changes before Major 1. You've got to get to a LAN, I think, and see how it goes there. But after Major 1, you know, there's talk about 4 teams, 5 teams, maybe even 6 teams making roster changes after Dallas. And of course, we've already seen a change, right? We talked about it earlier today. Lqgend is gone. Potentially TJ Halley is in. So they decide to do a VOD session. JP turns the stream on. He says OpTic VOD session. Merc said he would run Alluka. So this was all the talk over the last couple of days. This German kid Alluka, he's I think he's at Fisher University. He's come over on a student visa, right? And he's playing collegiate COD and has done for a little while. But he's been a notable player to keep your eyes on for some months now. And on this game, he finally had his real breakout tournament in the second cut, was dropping 1.75s. And look, it's one weekend, it's one day of COD, but often that's all it takes, right? You get spotted for one day. Octane's watching your stream. Dashy's watching your stream. Everyone's saying, damn, this is pretty godlike, right? Like, he's hitting some nice shots there. Wow, rip that guy off the heady. He could be the next up. And, of course, everyone for the last few years was looking for the next Simp. We always talked about this in challenges. People would try to avoid picking up players they knew what they were going to do and took a bit more of a risk to try and find the next Simp. It didn't look like we were ever going to get a new Simp until Mercules comes on the scene, and then we did. But even then, there's two sides to it, right? Because let's say Mercules had signed with Cloud9, which he could have done last year after the Toronto stint. Cloud9 gave him an offer, it was on the table. He wanted to get into the league, right? People were telling Merc, like, hey, you know, just chill out, right? Wait around, you might get a better offer. Maybe OpTic will say something, which of course, eventually they did. But Merc was, you know, understandably, new kid on the scene. He was, a contract offer was on the table for Cloud9, for Toronto on the bench, and he was very tempted to take it, and understandably. But of course, now the game has changed. Mercules went to OpTic, and look, without going to OpTic, he wouldn't have had the teammates to deliver the success that he has done. But also without Mercules, they wouldn't have been the team to deliver the success that they have now done, right? So, you know, it definitely goes both ways in terms of Merc's success, and even Simp's success was predicated on having a phenomenal team around him as well as the individual player that he became. But if you're an Alluka, or if you're another player trying to come up as well, then why would you take an offer that doesn't look that good when you could potentially wait around and get a top team offer, because you've seen exactly what happened with Mercules last season. So this is the discussion from Shotzzy, especially on why he thinks Alluka could be the next Perk 30.
Who's your favorite player in the league? Probably Scrap. Not because he's in the stream, I don't give a fuck. Like, bro, I don't give a fuck. I swear. But like, I'm just saying, I think him. Even though he be losing lately, no? Oh, are they losing? I don't even know.
This is on my mother's life, right? Okay. Bro, I pulled up this guy's stream in the morning, right? And I remember he was playing a fucking, I think he was playing Exposure or something, and then he was playing Overload on this map. And I was telling Kyler, like, I randomly put up a stream. I don't know why. I forgot why I was watching him. And I was like, yo, this guy's literally the next Perk. I swear to God.
No way.
I'm telling this to Kyler. And then I was like, Kyler, weren't you talking about this kid? Like, in, like, didn't you play against this kid? And he was like, yeah, we played him in Black Ops 6 last year. Or, like, off-season trials. But I low-key don't remember playing him. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah. But nah, he's good, dude. I'm not gonna lie, he's raw. He's actually, he's raw as fuck.
Next Perk is good gas.
Bro, because dude, the shit that I was, bro, the shit that I was seeing, I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, nah, I'm not gonna lie. If I'm any top team right now, I'm gonna look at, bro. I'll be honest. I'm not even like eye test alone. Like, I'm not. And it's not even because of like how I mean, obviously he was going off and shit, but it's just more of like
What he's doing, how he's doing it.
just his mechanics and like the way that he thinks about the game. Like, it's so. I'm telling you, he's literally in another Perk.
All right, well, chat, you heard it there first. I mean,
Email blood is actually.
Wait, how do I go back?
Didn't leaked it. Alluka and TJ rumored to join. Alluka should not do that. I'm telling you right now, bro. Actually, go ahead and do that. You know what? It'll save the comp on some trolly shit. I'm gonna guess. All right, let's actually try to go line by line, right? Like genuinely. Our team obviously not. Paris not. Fucking FaZe. Who's a flex on FaZe? Drazah. I mean, bro, that could happen. That's a maybe. That's a hard maybe. Fucking Thieves. I can see it for Thieves. That's a hard maybe too. Those are two maybes right there. That's for the top 4 team. And then everyone else, I mean, bro, I don't even know. At this, he could pick any team at that point. Like, who even, like, obviously he wouldn't join Miami. Falcons. Can he join Falcons? You think he would join Falcons? I don't think he would join Falcons. Unless he gets it. Nah. I mean, maybe. Who's? I mean, they do need like an actual flex player. Or do they?
This is strong gas, right? And even gas that I was not expecting Shotzzy to go as far as to say. Watching the gameplay and saying, look, this guy is literally the next Mercules is quite the statement to make. And yes, extremely impressive, right? But again, we were looking for 5-6 years to find the next Simp. And if you want to call Mercules the next Simp or whatever, right? Like, Simp had an unbelievable debut and opening to his career. There's only one player ever who's matched that, and it has been Mercules in recent months. So the idea of getting another Mercules a few months later feels implausible, but of course not entirely impossible. And Shotzzy, of course, said that, well, if you're a top team, you've got to be thinking about it, right? Now, Alluka should not, and I don't think will, be going to a team like Surge. Of course, even if they wanted him, which of course they would, but even then, it's like you bring Alluka into Surge, you've still got no experience, your team is probably still kind of cooked, right? Like, I'm not really sure that is necessarily the best idea, but Shotzzy lists a few teams that could be considered. Of course, Thieves will be on the radar, especially with Alluka saying as he did, that old Scrapp's my favourite player, right? Like, big fan of that guy, but he's been losing a little bit lately, so he might need some help, right? So it's all rather remarkable. But yeah, to imagine another player that is going to come along and do a Mercules shortly after is difficult to imagine, difficult to believe, but of course not entirely impossible. And because of the Mercules effect, teams will have to be thinking about it, and you've got to wonder whether maybe not before, but certainly after Major 1, I think Alluka will have some very strong offers on the table if he continues this form. So intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Just one final thing, I saw this yesterday, that TST are officially kind of not splitting up precisely, but kind of Team Summertime is no longer going to be a thing anymore. Hitch is focusing on his Around the Bar podcast and running his events, and then Jorge and of course Blake are going to be running their own streams. So yeah, just thought I'd mention that because I thought it was pretty sad news, but wishing all those guys the best. And obviously they're not like no longer friends or anything. The relationships I'm sure are still great, but maybe it just didn't make sense anymore to do it as a team. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.